With the warm weather finally arriving, we need a Sunscreen 101 refresher course from Mary from Tamarack. So, Mary, is there any new news regarding sunscreen?
Well, there is actually. We now have sunscreens that are available for children under 1 year of age, which before you couldn't get.
And how much sun exposure are we allowed?
Well, it all depends. First of all, the safest thing to do, of course, is to stay out of the sun during the biggest peak hours from 11 till 2. And I think that actually may be stretching to 3 or 4 now. So certainly get some shade, make sure you're wearing a hat, sunglasses, and then if you're going to be in an area where your skin is going to be unprotected from clothing, make sure you have a sunscreen that has UVA and UVB protection.
We're just coming out of the winter where we didn't get a lot of sun. Should we be taking our vitamin D?
If you're going to be getting at least 20 minutes of sun a day where your arms are exposed and your face is exposed, you don't need to continue your vitamin D. But for most of us, if we're trying to minimize our chances of skin cancer and we're either covered up with clothing or with a sunscreen, certainly keep taking your vitamin D throughout the summer. Adults, at least 1,000 international units a day. Infants, about 400, and children, 600 international units a day.
Mary, you mentioned that infants are now able to use sunscreen. What types of sunscreen should we be looking for infants? What's easy to apply?
That's a really good question because you have to make sure when you're applying it to an infant, because their hands are in their mouths, their hands are in their eyes, that they're not going to be getting it on their hands and then into that. It can be a little irritating for them. And my own personal thought is when you have an infant, the best thing is to keep them out of the sun, keep them protected. So if you do need sunscreen for a child, just make sure that if you use a spray that they're not inhaling it, that if you put it on, they're not going to get it into their eyes or they're not going to eat it.
Why is a natural sunscreen better for the environment?
Natural sunscreens are really important because they don't have any of the harsh chemicals. And a lot of people who travel now to foreign countries or go to resorts, they actually have to have biodegradable sunscreens. And that's because a lot of the chemicals that are in typical sunscreens are actually detrimental to coral reefs, to aquatic life, both plants and animals. And so you can imagine if it's not safe for plants or animals, it's certainly not safe for us either.
There's no excuse not to apply sunscreen. Can you describe some of the types of sunscreen that you have?
Sunscreen has come a long way. There was a time when if you used a natural sunscreen, it was pretty obvious. You looked like Casper the Ghost. You had a really white look. They've now made it much more easy to spread. It provides a physical barrier as opposed to a chemical barrier. You can wear it safely. You can wear it without being obvious. The secret is reapply, and if you're going to be in the water, make sure you've got one that is water resistant and reapply after you're in the water.
Keep your health in mind, but enjoy the sun. For Shaw TV, I'm Ann Gordon-Air.